I stood in Dad's lawyer's office, watching Aaron slide papers across the mahogany desk. My hands shook as I held the pen. The inheritance transfer document sat before me, crisp and official. Aaron leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, that familiar smirk playing at his lips. Dad would have wanted it this way, he said, his voice dripping with false righteousness. I'm just making things right, Melissa. Our mother Diane sat beside him, nodding like a proud peacock. Her eyes met mine with something cold, something final. The lawyer, Mr. Brennan, wouldn't look at me. He shuffled papers, cleared his throat, pretended to study something on his computer screen. That's when I knew. They'd planned this together. All of them. The $280,000 Dad left me, the money he'd promised would help me stand on my own, was already gone. My signature wouldn't matter. It was theater. I dropped the pen. You can't do this, I whispered. Aaron's smirk widened. Already did. That moment changed everything. That's the moment I realized justice, to them, meant stealing everything from me. My name is Melissa Turner. I'm 34 years old, mother of 2 beautiful kids, and that day in the lawyer's office wasn't just about money. It was about erasure. Growing up in Millbrook, our family looked normal from the outside. Dad owned a small construction business. Mom stayed home. Aaron was the golden child, 3 years older, athletic, charming. I was the quiet one, the bookworm, the daughter who asked too many questions. Dad loved us both, but differently. He saw Aaron's flaws, the entitlement, the carelessness with money. He saw my struggles too, raising 2 kids alone after my divorce, working double shifts at the hospital as a nurse. 6 months before he died, Dad pulled me aside at Thanksgiving. His voice was tired but firm. The money's for you, sweetheart. You'll know what to do with it. I remembered crying, telling him he'd be around for years. He smiled sadly. Just promise me you'll use it wisely. I promised. Now that promise was dust. The call from the bank came an hour after I left Brennan's office. Ms. Turner, the transfer is complete. The funds have been moved to Aaron Turner's account. My legs gave out. I sat on the curb outside a coffee shop, phone pressed to my ear. Can you reverse it? The banker's voice was sympathetic but final. Not without both parties' consent, ma'am. I'm sorry. 2 weeks later, the eviction notice arrived. Not from a landlord. From my own mother. I stood in the kitchen of the house Dad left me, reading the legal document with numb fingers. The deed transfer had never been processed. Dad's lawyer claimed it was an administrative oversight. But I knew better. Aaron had convinced Mom to reclaim the property. It was always meant to stay in the family, the letter from Diane's attorney read. Ms. Turner has 14 days to vacate. My daughter Emma, 9 years old, found me sitting at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. Mom, why are you crying? I wiped my eyes quickly. Just tired, baby. My son Kyle, 7, came running in from the backyard. He held a yellow sticky note, the kind Diane always used. Grandma left this on the fridge. His small hand passed it to me. The words were written in her neat, deliberate script, you should have seen this coming. The paper crumpled in my fist. Emma watched me with worried eyes. Kyle asked if we were moving. I forced a smile, told them we'd have an adventure. But inside, I was screaming. They'd taken my inheritance. Now they were taking my home. And they'd done it with a smile, calling it justice. We spent that first night in my Honda Civic, parked outside a motel I couldn't afford. Emma and Kyle slept in the back seat, wrapped in the blankets I'd grabbed before leaving. I sat in the driver's seat, windows cracked, listening to their soft breathing. The humiliation was a physical weight on my chest. I'd worked so hard, done everything right. Nursing school while raising babies. Night shifts and double overtime. I'd sacrificed, saved, planned. And they'd erased it all with forged signatures and legal loopholes. My phone buzzed. A text from Aaron, hope you found somewhere decent. Mom says you didn't take her calls. I wanted to throw the phone through the windshield. Instead, I turned it off. The parking lot was quiet except for the hum of the motel's neon sign. A couple walked past, laughing, going to their room. Normal people with normal problems. I envied them. Kyle stirred in his sleep, mumbled something about Grandpa. My heart cracked. Dad would have been furious. He'd built that construction business from nothing, survived 3 recessions, put both his kids through college. And this is what his legacy became. Theft dressed up as family values. I made a promise in that dark car, with my children breathing softly behind me. They don't get the last word. Emma whispered in her sleep, barely audible. Mom, did Grandpa really love us? I closed my eyes and cried silently. 3 days later, I went back to Dad's workshop. The old barn behind what used to be my house. Diane was at work. Aaron didn't care enough to check on the place. I needed tools, anything I could sell for cash. The barn smelled like sawdust and motor oil, exactly like Dad. His workbench sat untouched, tools hanging in perfect rows. I ran my fingers over his handwriting on the labels. Phillips head. Flat head. Torque wrench. Everything organized, everything in its place. That's who he was. I was kneeling beside his tool chest when I noticed the loose floorboard. Not broken. Loose. Deliberately loose. I pried it up with a screwdriver. Underneath, wrapped in oilcloth, was a manila envelope. My name was written across the front in Dad's shaky handwriting. The letter inside was dated 2 weeks before he died. My dearest Melissa, it began. If you're reading this, I'm gone. And if you're looking here, something went wrong. I left you the money because you have the heart I wished Aaron did. You've always been strong, stronger than you know. Don't let them convince you otherwise. There's more I wanted to tell you. More I wanted to protect you from. The lawyer knows. Make him tell you the truth. Love always, Dad. My hands shook. Brennan had to have known this letter existed. He'd been Dad's lawyer for 20 years. He knew where Dad kept important documents. And he'd looked away while Aaron stole everything. By the end of the week, the rumors started. I heard them at the grocery store first. 2 women I'd known since high school, whispering near the produce section. They stopped when they saw me, but I caught enough. Tricked him while he was dying. Always knew she was manipulative. Aaron had gotten to them first. He'd spread his version of the story all over Millbrook. According to him, I'd pressured Dad into signing over the inheritance while he was weak from cancer treatments. Never mind that Dad had been sharp as a tack until his last breath. Never mind that he'd made his will 5 years before getting sick. Lies spread faster than truth in small towns. Old friends stopped returning my calls. My ex-husband Travis filed new paperwork to reduce child support, citing the large inheritance I'd allegedly received. Even the bank manager who'd known my family for decades looked at me differently. The worst came at a backyard barbecue I wasn't invited to. I was walking past the Johnson house, holding Emma's hand, when I heard Aaron's voice carrying over the fence. She'll crawl back eventually, he said, laughing. They always do. Several people laughed with him. I kept walking. Emma squeezed my hand. Mom, why do they hate us? I didn't have an answer. That night, lying on a friend's couch while my kids slept in sleeping bags on her floor, I realized something. Aaron wasn't just stealing my money. He was stealing my identity, my history, my place in this town. And he was doing it with Diane's blessing. Rock bottom came with a cleaning caddy and yellow rubber gloves. I found work with Sparkle Clean Services, scrubbing toilets and mopping floors in the houses I used to visit as a guest. Mrs. Patterson's kitchen. The Hendersons' vacation home. Even the medical center where I'd worked as a nurse before losing everything. Pride died slowly. Each house I cleaned, each toilet I scrubbed, I felt myself disappearing a little more. But I also felt something else growing. Not revenge. Not yet. Survival. Pure, stubborn survival. My first paycheck was $340 for 2 weeks of work. I cried holding that check, then cashed it immediately and bought Emma new shoes. Hers had holes in the soles. She'd been wearing them without complaint. That's when I knew I couldn't let them win. Not for me. For my kids. I started seeing patterns again. The way Mrs. Patterson organized her spice rack. The way Mr. Henderson kept meticulous records in his home office. The way systems worked when people paid attention. Dad had taught me that. How to see the structure underneath the chaos. One afternoon, cleaning the Westbrook mansion, I recognized a car in the driveway. Black Cadillac with vanity plates. Brennan's car. Dad's lawyer was having his home office cleaned. And Sparkle Clean had assigned me to the job. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Sometimes fate gives you tools. You just have to pick them up. Brennan's office was exactly what I expected. Dark wood, leather chairs, walls lined with legal books nobody actually read anymore. He wasn't home. His wife let me in, barely glancing at my face before disappearing upstairs. I cleaned slowly, methodically. Dusted every shelf. Wiped every surface. And when I reached his desk, I paused. The file cabinet behind his chair was slightly open. Not much. Just enough. I glanced at the doorway. No one. My heart hammered as I pulled open the drawer. Client files, alphabetically arranged. Turner was near the back. I pulled the folder, hands shaking. Inside were copies of Dad's will. Both versions. The original, leaving everything to me as executor. And the modified version, with Diane named executor and Aaron as primary beneficiary. The signature on the second version was Dad's. But the date was wrong. That version was supposedly signed 3 days after Dad died. I heard footsteps on the stairs. I shoved the folder back, closed the drawer, and grabbed my cleaning spray. Brennan appeared in the doorway. He froze when he saw me. Melissa. His voice was careful. I didn't know you'd be here today. I smiled tightly. Just finishing up. He watched me gather my supplies. Then, just as I reached the door, he spoke. Your father wasn't done protecting you. I turned. He was standing by his desk, hand resting on the file cabinet. There's a secondary trust. Activated only if fraud occurs. He didn't trust. He stopped, swallowed hard. He didn't trust Diane. Before I could respond, he pulled a USB drive from his drawer and pressed it into my palm. You didn't get this from me. I didn't sleep that night. The USB drive sat on the kitchen counter of my friend's apartment while Emma and Kyle slept soundly in the next room. I stared at it like it might explode. Finally, at 2 a.m, I opened my laptop and plugged it in. The files loaded slowly. Scanned documents. Legal papers. Emails. And one video file labeled for Melissa only. I clicked it with trembling fingers. Dad's face filled the screen. He looked tired, thinner than I remembered. The video was dated 6 months before he died. Hey, sweetheart, he said, smiling that sad smile. If you're watching this, Brennan did his job. I've set up a secondary trust. $300,000. But it only activates if someone tries to steal the primary inheritance. He coughed, took a breath. I know my family, Melissa. I know Aaron. And God forgive me, I know your mother. So I built in protection. But you'll need proof. Proof that they forged documents or committed fraud. Brennan will help you. He's not a bad man, just a scared one. Don't let him off easy, but don't destroy him either. The video ended. I sat in the dark, tears streaming down my face. Dad had known. He'd seen this coming and tried to protect me even from beyond the grave. I opened the other files. Bank records. Email chains between Diane and Brennan. And one document that made my blood run cold. A signature comparison sheet showing Aaron's attempt to forge Dad's handwriting. Someone had caught it. Someone had documented it. And then someone had buried it. I printed everything. Took the files to a copy center 3 towns over where no one knew my name. Made multiple copies, stored them in different locations. One set went to a friend in another state. One went in a safety deposit box I opened with borrowed money. One stayed hidden under the spare tire in my car. Then I went hunting for the original documents. Dad's real will, the one before Diane got her hands on it, had to exist somewhere. I started with the county records office. The clerk was young, bored, helpful. Turner Estate? Let me check. She typed, frowned, typed more. That's weird. What? I leaned over the counter. There are 2 filings. Same case number. But different dates. She showed me her screen. The first filing was Dad's original will. Me as executor. Dated correctly. The second filing was the modified version. But the date stamp showed it had been filed 4 days after the first. Someone filed twice? I asked. She nodded slowly. Usually that means an amendment. But there's no amendment paperwork. Just. She squinted at the screen. A notation that the first filing was an error. Who made that notation? Would have been the attorney of record. She scrolled. A Mr. Brennan. I thanked her, drove back to my friend's apartment, and compared the signatures on both documents side by side. They weren't even close. Aaron had tried to copy Dad's signature, but he'd gotten the loops wrong. The pressure points didn't match. The slant was off. Any handwriting expert would spot it in seconds. I had him. I finally had him. The next morning, I called Brennan. We need to talk. He sighed. Melissa, I can't, you can. And you will. Unless you want me to file a complaint with the state bar about your involvement in document fraud. Silence. Then, my office. 4 o'clock. I arrived early. Brennan looked older than I remembered, grayer, more hunched. He gestured to a chair. I sat. I didn't want this, he said immediately. Your mother, she pushed. She said your father wasn't thinking clearly. She said Aaron needed the money more. So you helped her forge documents? His face crumpled. I didn't forge anything. Aaron did that. I just didn't stop it. God help me, I looked the other way. Why? He was quiet for a long time. Then, your mother threatened to expose something from my past. Something that could have ended my career. I was weak. I'm sorry. I wanted to scream at him. Instead, I pulled out the USB drive. Dad knew you'd fold. That's why he gave you this. Insurance. Brennan stared at the drive. He was a good man. Better than I deserved. He was. I stood. Now you're going to make this right. You're going to testify that those documents were fraudulent. You're going to help me activate that secondary trust. And if you don't, Brennan, I'll bury you. He looked up at me with watery eyes. If this comes out, we're all done. Me, your mother, Aaron. Everyone. I headed for the door. Then I guess everyone should have thought of that before they stole from me. Word leaked somehow. Small towns thrive on gossip. By the weekend, Diane launched her counterattack. She called me a liar. Said I'd forged Aaron's signature to frame him. Said I was a bitter, jealous daughter who couldn't accept that Dad loved Aaron more. The town split. Some people believed her. Some whispered doubts. Most just wanted to watch the drama unfold. Then Kyle's school called. Ms. Turner, we need to discuss your son's behavior. My stomach dropped. What happened? He's been disruptive in class. And the principal hesitated. Mrs. Grayson, Aaron's wife, has requested we consider alternative placement for Kyle. Alternative placement? My voice rose. You mean expulsion? We just think, given the family situation, I hung up. Drove to the school. Marched into the principal's office. My son is 7 years old. He's being bullied because of adult problems. And you're punishing him for it? The principal, Mr. Wallace, shifted uncomfortably. Mrs. Grayson made compelling arguments about classroom disruption. Mrs. Grayson is my brother's wife. She has no authority over my child's education. I leaned forward. If you expel Kyle, I'll sue this district for discrimination. And I'll make sure every parent knows you chose sides in a custody dispute instead of protecting a child. Mr. Wallace paled. We'll reconsider. I left before he could respond. In the parking lot, I broke down. They were coming after my kids now. Not just me. My kids. That's when I knew I couldn't be defensive anymore. I had to attack. Help came from an unexpected place. Mrs. Evelyn Crawford was 76, widowed, and sharp as broken glass. I cleaned her house every Tuesday. She always made tea, always asked how my kids were doing, always treated me like a person instead of the help. One afternoon, while I scrubbed her kitchen floor, she called me into the living room. Sit down, dear. I sat, confused. She handed me an envelope. This is a job offer. Part-time bookkeeping for my rental properties. Pays better than cleaning. My eyes filled with tears. Mrs. Crawford, Evelyn, please. And you'll accept because you're overqualified for scrubbing toilets. She smiled gently. Your father would be proud of how you're handling this mess, you know. I froze. You knew my dad? Knew him well. He did all the maintenance on my properties for years. Good man. Honest man. And before he died, he asked me to keep something safe for him. She stood, walked to her antique desk, and pulled out a small brass key. Safe deposit box at Millbrook Credit Union. Box 247. He said if anything ever happened to you, I should give you this. My hands shook as I took the key. What's inside? I don't know. He never told me. But he trusted you'd know what to do with it. I went to the bank that afternoon. Signed in, showed ID, followed the attendant to the vault. Box 247 was small, tucked in the corner. Inside were old photographs of me and Dad. Letters I'd written him as a kid. And one legal document, signed and notarized. A copy of his original will naming me executor of the estate. Dated 5 years before his death. Predating everything Aaron had stolen. I returned to the house that was supposed to be mine. Diane answered the door, surprise flickering across her face before settling into cold contempt. What do you want? To talk. Face to face. She tried to close the door. I put my foot in the gap. Move, Melissa. No. Aaron appeared behind her. Mom, who? He stopped when he saw me. You need to leave. I pulled out my phone, hit record, and held it up. I know what you did. Both of you. Diane's face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Dad's trust. The secondary one. The forged signatures. The fake will. I stepped closer. I have everything. Documents, recordings, testimony from Brennan. All of it. Aaron's confident smirk started to crack. You're bluffing. Am I? I pulled out copies of the comparison signatures. Dad knew you'd try this. He built in protections. And you fell for it. Diane grabbed the papers, studied them, then threw them back at me. No one will believe you. You're just a bitter daughter who has proof, I finished. Unlike you. Aaron lunged forward. You little, careful, I said calmly. I'm recording this. And I have witnesses ready to testify. That was a bluff. But they didn't know that. Diane's voice turned shrill. Get out of my house. Your house. Check the deed again. This was never legally transferred to you. I smiled coldly. I'll see you both in court. I sent the recording to my lawyer that night. Actually, I sent it to 3 lawyers, just to be safe. One was a family law specialist. One handled estate disputes. The third was a friend of Evelyn's who took cases pro bono for people Diane had screwed over. There were more than I'd expected. By morning, Aaron knew. He showed up at Sparkle Clean's office, red-faced and furious. I was in the back, organizing supplies. My supervisor, Karen, came running. "Melissa, there's a man," Aaron shoved past her. "You think you're smart?" I stayed calm. "Smarter than you, apparently. That recording is illegal. You can't use it." "Actually, I can. Single-party consent state." "Look it up." His hands clenched into fists. Karen pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the police." "Do it," I said, not breaking eye contact with Aaron. "Please do. I'd love to have police documentation of this." Aaron's face twisted. "You're destroying this family. You destroyed it when you stole from me." The police arrived 8 minutes later. Officer Martinez had gone to school with me. He took one look at the situation and separated us. "Mr. Turner, you need to leave the premises." "She's lying." Sir, you're trespassing. Leave now or I'll arrest you." Aaron left, but not before pointing at me. "This isn't over." Martinez turned to me. "You okay?" I nodded. "Can you write up what just happened? For documentation?" "Already done." He handed me his card. "Call if he shows up again." That night, I got a call from my lawyer. "We're filing tomorrow. With the recording and the forged documents, we have a strong case." "How strong?" "Very." He paused. "Melissa, you might actually win this." The court date was set for 3 weeks out. I spent those weeks preparing, gathering every piece of evidence I could find. Every document. Every witness statement. Every proof that Aaron and Diane had conspired to steal my inheritance. Brennan agreed to testify. He looked miserable doing it, but he agreed. Evelyn testified too, explaining the safe deposit box and Dad's instructions. Even a few of Diane's old friends came forward, quietly, saying they'd always wondered why Dad's will had changed so suddenly. The day of the hearing arrived cold and gray. I wore my only good dress, the one I'd bought for Dad's funeral. Emma and Kyle stayed with Evelyn. I didn't want them seeing this. Diane arrived in full armor. Designer suit, perfect makeup, expensive lawyer. Aaron slouched beside her, trying to look confident but failing. The judge was a woman in her 50s named Sandra Ortiz. She had a reputation for not tolerating nonsense. I liked her immediately. The proceedings started. Aaron's lawyer presented their case first, essentially arguing that Dad had been of unsound mind when he made his original will. That Diane, as his wife, had the right to modify his estate distribution. That I was being vindictive and greedy. Then my lawyer stood up. He presented the forged signatures, the expert analysis, the timeline inconsistencies, the recording of Diane admitting she'd manipulated the process, and finally, the original will from the safe deposit box, predating everything. Judge Ortiz studied the documents. The courtroom was silent. Then she looked up. "We're taking a recess. I need to review this with both counsel." The next 30 minutes felt like years. Then we were called back in. "Before I rule," Judge Ortiz said, "I have a question for Mr. Turner and Mrs. Turner." She looked at Aaron and Diane. "Did you, at any point, forge documents or conspire to defraud Melissa Turner of her rightful inheritance?" Diane opened her mouth. Aaron's lawyer cut her off. "Don't answer that." Judge Ortiz's eyes narrowed. "Interesting." She looked at the bailiff. "Is there a Detective Morrison here?" A man in plain clothes stood up from the back. "Yes, Your Honor. Please wait outside. I may have a case for you." Then she addressed us again. "I'm ordering a full forensic review of all documents. Court is adjourned until further notice." We filed out. In the hallway, Aaron's lawyer pulled him aside. They argued in harsh whispers. Then Aaron walked away. His lawyer called after him. He didn't stop. That's when I knew. He was running. By the next morning, Aaron was gone. Diane called me, hysterical. "Your brother is missing. This is your fault." I hung up. Let her panic. The judge issued a bench warrant for Aaron's arrest. Turns out fleeing during an active fraud investigation isn't a great look. The forensic review came back 3 days later. Every signature on the modified documents was fake. Aaron had forged Dad's signature. Diane had helped him. Brennan had filed the fraudulent paperwork. All three were now facing criminal charges. But only Diane and Brennan were around to face them. Aaron had vanished. Diane's world crumbled fast. Friends stopped calling. Her church asked her to step down from the Women's Guild. Even her sister stopped taking her calls. I watched it happen with a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. A week after Aaron disappeared, I found a letter in my mailbox. No stamp. No return address. Just my name in familiar handwriting. Inside, Aaron had written 3 pages of half apologies and full justifications. He blamed Diane for pushing him. Blamed me for not understanding. Blamed Dad for favoring me. I'm sorry it came to this, he wrote. But you have to understand, Mom always said I deserved more. I just wanted what should have been mine. At the bottom was a P.O. box address in some town I'd never heard of. 2 states away. I folded the letter carefully, put it in a plastic bag, and took it to Detective Morrison. Postmark? He asked. No. But the return address is right there. He smiled grimly. We'll find him. They found Aaron 3 weeks later. Living in a cheap motel in Pinewood, Arizona. Working under a fake name at a hardware store. He drained what little money was left in his accounts and run. Detective Morrison called me when they arrested him. Thought you'd want to know. He's being extradited back to Millbrook. How'd he look? Tired. Sick. Like a man who knows he lost. I thanked him and hung up. That night, I lay awake thinking about Aaron. The brother I'd grown up with. The boy who'd taught me to ride a bike. The teenager who'd defended me against bullies. When had he become this? When had greed and entitlement twisted him into someone capable of stealing from his own sister? I didn't have answers. Maybe there weren't any. Maybe people just made choices and lived with them. A week later, a final letter arrived. This one was from Aaron, written from the county jail where he was awaiting trial. Melissa, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I destroyed everything. But I'm still your brother. And I'm asking you, please, drop the charges. For Mom's sake. For our family. I read it twice. Then I put it in a box with all the other evidence. The trial date was set for the following month. Diane hired a better lawyer, trying to separate herself from Aaron's actions. Brennan took a plea deal in exchange for his full testimony. Aaron pleaded not guilty and prepared to fight. I prepared to destroy him in court. The trial was brutal. Aaron's lawyer tried everything. Character assassination. Emotional manipulation. Suggesting I'd driven Aaron to desperation by being vindictive. None of it worked. The evidence was overwhelming. Forged signatures. Falsified documents. Conspiracy to commit fraud. By day 3, even Aaron's lawyer looked defeated. On the 4th day, Aaron himself took the stand. My lawyer, Thomas Reeves, tore him apart. Mr. Turner, did you forge your father's signature on these documents? I thought I was helping, yes or no, Mr. Turner. Long pause. Yes. Did you conspire with your mother to steal your sister's inheritance? It wasn't like that, yes or no. Yes. The courtroom murmured. Aaron's face crumpled. He looked at me for the first time since the trial started. I met his eyes and felt nothing. No anger. No satisfaction. Just tired. When the jury returned after only 2 hours of deliberation, I knew. We find the defendant guilty on all counts. Aaron's head dropped. Diane let out a sob from the back row. Judge Ortiz addressed Aaron directly. Mr. Turner, you didn't just steal money. You stole trust. You destroyed your family's legacy. And you did it with premeditation and malice. She sentenced him to 3 years in prison and ordered full restitution. Plus damages. The final amount was more than he'd stolen from me. Way more. As they led Aaron away, he looked at Diane. She wouldn't meet his eyes. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. After the trial, I visited Aaron once. Just once. The county jail visiting room smelled like industrial cleaner and despair. Aaron sat on the other side of the glass partition, wearing orange, looking smaller somehow. We picked up the phone simultaneously. "Why'd you come?" he asked. "I don't know." Silence. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "For what it's worth." "It's worth nothing. Sorry doesn't give me back the time I spent homeless with my kids. Sorry doesn't erase the rumors or the pain." He nodded. "I know. Why'd you do it, Aaron?" "Really?" He was quiet for a long time. "Mom always said you were Dad's favorite. Said I had to prove myself. And when he left you everything, I just snapped. Like it confirmed everything she'd always said. So you stole from me to prove yourself to Mom? Pathetic, right?" He laughed bitterly. "Yeah. It is." I stood up. "This is the last time I'll visit. I just wanted you to know that I'm taking the restitution money and putting it toward scholarships for kids whose families failed them. Dad would have liked that." Aaron's eyes filled with tears. "Melissa, goodbye, Aaron." I hung up the phone and walked out. Behind me, I heard him calling my name through the glass. I didn't look back. Some people have to lose everything to understand what they had. Aaron was one of them. I wasn't going to wait around while he figured it out. The civil case resolved 3 months later. Diane lost everything. The house had to be sold to pay my restitution and legal fees. Her retirement accounts were drained. Her car repossessed. She moved into a 1-bedroom apartment on the bad side of Millbrook and got a job at a grocery store. I saw her once, bagging groceries at the Safeway. She didn't see me. Or pretended not to. Either way, I left without speaking. Brennan lost his law license. He moved to Florida to live with his daughter, disgraced but free. Aaron served his time at state prison in Clarksville. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he joined a Bible study group and started writing letters to Emma and Kyle. I threw them away without reading them. My kids didn't need his guilt disguised as redemption. The money came through in waves. Restitution from Aaron. Damages from Diane. The secondary trust, finally activated. Dad's final protection. When all was said and done, I had close to $500,000. More than Aaron ever stole. More than he ever expected to lose. I took a week to process it. Stared at the bank statement. Made sure it was real. Then I called Evelyn. "I want to do something good with this money. Something Dad would be proud of." "What did you have in mind?" I smiled. "A community space. For people like me. Single parents, kids in crisis, families that need a second chance." "That's beautiful, Melissa. And I want to name it after Dad." 18 months later, Turner Community Workshop opened its doors. The old barn behind Dad's construction office, the one where I'd found his letter, was renovated into a multi-purpose space. 1 room for job training. 1 for tutoring. 1 for counseling. A small library. A computer lab. Everything free. Everything open to anyone who needed it. I hung Dad's photo in the main room. Underneath, a plaque, built by love. Restored by justice. Dedicated to second chances. Emma and Kyle cut the ribbon at the opening ceremony. My daughter, now 11, read a speech she'd written herself. My grandpa believed in helping people. My mom does too. This place is for everyone who needs someone to believe in them. The crowd applauded. I cried. Evelyn squeezed my hand. "Your father is smiling somewhere." I believed her. The workshop thrived. We helped 40 families in the first year alone. Job placements. Tutoring that brought up grades. Counseling that saved marriages. The local newspaper did a feature story. People from surrounding towns started calling. One afternoon, a woman came in looking for help with her resume. She was my age, tired-looking, nervous. I just got divorced, she explained. Lost everything. I don't even know where to start. I smiled and handed her a form. You start here. We'll figure it out together. She looked at me with desperate hope. Really? Really? That's what we do. After she left, I stood in Dad's workshop, breathing in the smell of fresh paint and new beginnings. My phone buzzed. A text from Diane. I hadn't heard from her in a year. I saw the article. Your father would be proud. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it. Diane showed up at the workshop 3 months later. I was in the back office, reviewing grant applications, when Evelyn knocked on my door. Someone's here to see you. Her expression was carefully neutral. Who? Your mother. My stomach tightened. I hadn't seen Diane face to face since the trial. Part of me wanted to tell Evelyn to send her away. But a bigger part, the part Dad had raised, said to face it. I walked to the front. Diane stood by the entrance, looking small and uncertain. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by a simple sweater and jeans. Her hair had more gray. She'd aged years in months. Melissa. Her voice was quiet. Can we talk? I gestured to a corner table. We sat across from each other like strangers. I saw what you built here, she started. It's beautiful. Thank you. I came to apologize. Really apologize. She folded her hands on the table. Not because I want anything. I know I can't undo what I did. But you deserve to hear it. I was wrong. I was cruel. I let my favoritism poison everything. I waited. Aaron called me last week. From prison. He told me he's ashamed of what we did. Of what I pushed him to do. Her eyes filled with tears. I told myself I was helping him. That you were stronger, that you didn't need the money as much. But the truth is, I was jealous. Jealous? Your father loved you differently. Purely. With Aaron, there was always disappointment underneath. With you, there was just pride. And I resented you for it. The words hung between us. That doesn't excuse anything, I said finally. No. It doesn't. She wiped her eyes. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I see what I destroyed. And I'm sorry. I didn't respond right away. Couldn't. Years of hurt don't dissolve with one apology. But I saw something in Diane's face I'd never seen before. Genuine remorse. Not self-pity. Not manipulation. Just raw, painful awareness of what she'd done. I appreciate you saying that, I said carefully. But I can't just forget. I know. You took my home. You backed Aaron while he stole from me. You spread lies that destroyed my reputation. You tried to get my son expelled. My voice stayed level. You didn't just hurt me, Mom. You hurt Emma and Kyle. They asked if their grandma hated them. Diane's face crumpled. God, Melissa. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix it. I leaned forward. But here's what I'll tell you. Dad taught me that people deserve a chance to be better than their worst moments. So I'm not shutting the door completely. But I'm not opening it wide either. What does that mean? It means we're not family right now. We're two people with shared history. If you want to rebuild something, it'll take years. And it starts with you showing up differently. Not for me. For Emma and Kyle. They're the ones who really lost something when you chose Aaron over truth. Diane nodded slowly. What can I do? Live differently. Show them through actions, not words, that you've changed. Maybe in a few years, if I see that change is real, we can talk about what family means. She stood up, shoulders hunched. Thank you for not throwing me out. I didn't respond. Just watched her walk to the door. Before she left, she turned back. He really would be proud, you know. Your father. Of this place. Of you. Then she was gone. Evelyn appeared beside me. You okay? I exhaled slowly. Yeah. I am. 2 years after opening Turner Community Workshop, I stood in the main room during our anniversary celebration. The walls were covered with photos. Success stories. People who'd found jobs, finished degrees, rebuilt their lives. Emma, now 13, helped serve cake. Kyle, 9, gave tours to visitors. They were happy, stable, thriving. Everything I'd fought to give them. A local news crew was filming. The reporter, a young woman named Casey, asked me the question I'd been asked 100 times. What made you turn your tragedy into this? After everything your family did, why build something for the community? I thought about it. Really thought. My dad left me money, I said finally. My brother stole it. My mother helped him. I lost everything, my home, my dignity, my place in this town. But what they couldn't steal was what my dad actually gave me. His values. His belief that people are worth fighting for. His understanding that strength isn't about revenge. It's about building something bigger than your pain. I gestured around the room. This workshop helps 40 to 50 families every year. Single parents who need job training. Kids who need tutoring. People who just need someone to believe in them. That's my dad's real legacy. Not the money. The heart behind it. Casey smiled. And your brother? Your mother? They made choices. They're living with consequences. I hope they find peace someday. But that's not my responsibility anymore. My responsibility is to Emma, to Kyle, and to every person who walks through these doors looking for a second chance. The interview aired that night. By morning, donation calls flooded in. People from across the state wanting to help, wanting to support what we'd built. I hired 2 more staff members. Expanded our hours. Started a scholarship fund for kids whose families had failed them, just like I'd promised Aaron I would. Dad's photo still hung on the wall, watching over everything. Sometimes I'd stand in front of it, usually late at night after everyone left, and tell him about my day. About the woman who got her first job in 3 years. About the kid who raised his math grade from failing to a B+. About Emma's volleyball games and Kyle's science projects. I did it, Dad, I whispered one night. They tried to erase what you built. But I took it back. I took back more than they ever expected. Not just money. Dignity. Purpose. Legacy. The barn was quiet except for the hum of the heater. Outside, Millbrook slept. Inside, in the space that had been Dad's and was now mine, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete. Whole. Free. They'd stolen my inheritance. I'd built an empire. Not of money, but of meaning. And that, they could never touch. I turned off the lights, locked the door, and drove home to my kids. Tomorrow, more people would walk through those doors. More stories would begin. More lives would change. Dad had left me money to stand on my own. I'd used it to help others stand too. That was justice. Real justice. Not revenge. Not bitterness. Just the simple, powerful act of turning pain into purpose. And somewhere, I knew Dad was proud.